Good morning, everyone. Very happy here to present the fire life safety, which is very important for super high-rise building design. Our session will be in conjunction with Mickey Reiss, the president of RGA, and I'm Fang Li, based in Shanghai. I hope everybody enjoyed the stay here, and actually, this is just some background to start with. The topic here for fire life safety, I'm sure everybody realizes how important this would be, particularly for super high-rise building. And we have enjoyed the very fun stuff for the architecture part, for all the creative idea for all the tall buildings. But down to the fire life safety, it's a lot of real problem, has to bring a lot of food for thought for future design. This picture shows some of the highlight buildings. We are currently working as fire life safety consultant from RGA. This is a Greenland building, which is currently designed as the tallest building in China, in addition to the Shanghai Tower. When we're talking about the building design, fire life safety might be, even it's very important, but also it's not the first thing for architecture and owner to consider about, because they want the building to be, very appealing appearance, but also they don't want the building with sacrifice the fire life safety, which is most important for the building design. And what brings the challenge to design the building when we actually have all the scheme developed and when we want to put the real element into the building to make a very safe building? What's the definition? What the criteria we have to put in the consideration? When we're talking about a super high-rise building, a lot of the architecture from overseas actually play the significant roles in the China development for the modern forest city. And we can tell when we're talking about what's the base for design, it's always down to the several key factors. What's the design basis? What international practice we have to use? What's the China code? What's the code for local practice? And what's for the other considerations, such as green building, which has become most and hot topics, as everybody here. And here's some of the highlight features we identified for when we're talking about the building design. First of all, is the design challenge, fire separation and fire-rated structure element, fire protection system and design and installation, which is green roof is one of the topics when we're talking about green buildings, which also is the green energy saving brings, suspended design. And sprinkler water quality and testing, fire department says an area of refuge. This is some feature we just put as example when we're talking about building design. All this has to be considered when we lay out the design. This is another picture shows the typical office building with super high rise. In China, when we're talking about building height, we define a certain different group. For building over 24 meters, it's called regular high-rise buildings. And when building achieve 100 meters, we're talking about the super high-rise, which means additional fire protection features has to be added in, such as helipad access and the area of refuge with, somebody we're talking about in particularly, but we will address that as well in this topic. And today we're talking about building over 600 meters, 500 meters, mega-size or super high-rise buildings. That brings another challenge regarding how to do the code compliance even in China. And some of the international practice, we can add the experience and benefit for consider the building design in China. And this is some things we're talking about the normal building design, just complying the China code. For the large building, super high-rise, people want to still enjoy. They are very well connected to the environmental. So the architect has to think about how make the super high-rise building still feel people like part of the society. Large open space create a lot of glistening materials. People can actually enjoy the view, which get to their, but also they feel like they are not isolated in the super high-rise building. And also the mixed use separation. For the building we defined as a vertical city, you have to create a self-sufficient. That means you have all the different occupancy usage to support the building. People live there, work there, and they feel like they don't necessarily to go to other place to get things done if they just enjoy the entire building as the building city. And today we see a lot of buildings surrounding this area with super high-rise. They use the curtain wall glass materials, which somehow brings debate as well. Not just fire life safety, also the lighting pollution. But it created the modern society feeling of the building for the high-rise buildings and the weight. So glass glazing material actually brings a lot of benefit when we're talking about the green buildings. And the last thing, which is very important, with the building height, seems like higher and higher. A lot of new technology product has to be developed to support the building. One of the examples I'm talking about the Masdar corporate headquarters, which built in the Middle East, in the desert area. And you can see this area, this building particularly is for the energy saving building, and they're talking about the zero energy consumption, which is a very unique topic. And they use a lot of glazing material, actually created a very translucent feelings for the occupant there, also the guest there when they see the building. It's very unique features. And they have different elements, created the different zones and supporting the roof structure, but it brings a lot of challenge, which is very common issues when we do the fire life safety among the world. First is large open space separation. For some area with high fuel load, you don't want to be the same level with some of the light hazard areas. So certain appropriate fire separation has to be identified and achieved. And the natural lighting transfer, because this building we're talking about using the energy saving concept, you want to use less and less actual human added element just to try to keep the building as natural as possible, to keep the energy saving and still make the building function, no matter the HVAC system or also fire protection system. And it's a lot of steel structure to be used in this building, but also the fire challenge regarding how to protect the steel structure become a concern. For this building, a very hot topic using performance-based design approach, which has been identified and proposed in a lot of unique buildings around the world, has been practiced in this building design. First of all, we have to consider about what's the worst case scenario, which is actually brings conservative design criteria, but also not over-conservative. So that's why we define the credible fire scenarios. And also, when we're talking about this building proposed with sprinkler, what are the benefits of sprinkler put in? Because in that area, for the desert, we're talking about energy saving. The sprinkler system become very, very important for protect the building. Also, how that related to we define the fire size. For example, in Shanghai, we're talking about if building ceiling height over 10 meters, actually the sprinkler cannot be worked well for suppression and control the fire. So when we're talking about fire size, we actually not consider about sprinkler effect to the fire. So that's different criteria if we use the building in other place. What the fire department or building official feel comfortable if we add some of the benefit, consider other system interaction with certain features. And atrium space geometry, how that related to the fire separation if you want to use the firewall or fire shutter. In China, particularly, the challenge would be the fire separation defined by the different occupancies actually achieved by the floor area, which means no matter what the function would be, the certain fixed floor area has to be counted when you do the maximum fire compartment size allowed in the building code. We use a lot of fire modeling to support this building, actually end up with using the natural smoke venting instead of mechanical smoke exhaust. And the simulation actually used to be develop the trial design towards the final design, the criteria. People always concerned about the high-rise building if the natural ventilation works well, because a lot of factors such as the environmental, wind situation, what's the climate situation will impact the ventral exhaust system. That means sometimes when we're talking about the natural ventilation, we always concerned if the buoyancy for the smoke generators is adequate enough for the smoke to be exhausted without a mechanical smoke exhaust system. So we created a different certain level air supply to create a very positive air supply direction to show the design actually works. And with certain levels, when the team with fire protection engineer work together very well with the mechanical engineer to do the simulation, and the final result present the building and the fire official to get approved. So that's one of the achievements done for this building, for the natural ventilation. And also the egress, travel distance, tenability. A lot of international criteria has been applied in this building, but also we have to concern different local code, what's their specific requirement will be the hold for true for code official. They think they're more applicable to that region. So international practice plus the local practice worked well, but we have to show it's not just a general approach to everywhere for a certain project. It all depends on the unique features and the local practice, what's the product, what's the system, and also what the firefighting techniques will be used in the building. And now I'm going to Mickey Reiss to give the rest of the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Fang. Fang is always a very difficult act to follow there because she is so smart and she makes everybody else look good in RJA. Another challenge in super tall buildings, which is a challenge in regular buildings as well, but even more so in super tall buildings, the fire protection systems design and installation. When you look at the fire alarm and automatic sprinkler and smoke control systems, you have to look at it from overall system right down to individual device placements. For example, if you have obstructions, particularly in open areas with a lot of glass walls, it becomes a placement issue, and it becomes an issue there of looking at glazing locations and how you will protect them, not only with detection, but special sprinkler systems to work with them. Super tall buildings have also introduced new applications that never occurred before. Wind turbines now we're starting to see in many of the buildings. They bring specific challenges of their own. You have to isolate the turbine, usually with a fire-rated construction from the rest of the building to provide some sort of isolation, but at the same time you want to provide access for the fire service to get there if they have to. So these are additional installation challenges. Photovoltaic panels are electrical, power shutdown and power and access for fire service are also additional issues that have never been occurred before. And finally, high-tech materials that are being used. These are all new types of materials that are being used today that probably have not been thoroughly tested. For example, when you look at a double-wall construction, with insulation, there are certain materials there that provide very, very good energy factors there, but are very, very poor fire rated. So these are balances that need to be taken place. The Pearl River Tower in Guangzhou is an example of bringing a lot of these new concepts there that you can see in the upper right-hand corner, you can see the wind turbine, you can see the photovoltaic cells, the double wall construction, all the issues that typically will occur that would bring in fire challenges. The Pearl River Tower was very interesting. The owner on that happened to be the cigarette manufacturing tobacco company, and they wanted a green building. Somehow there was somewhat of a disconnect on our part, but when you're looking at a tobacco company in a green building, but they looked at it for to be the first one down in the Pearl River Delta, plus also the ability at that point in time to advertise it for higher rental space in the floors that they were not occupying themselves. In addition to those two challenges that we talked about with fire separations and system installation, there are a few other fire safety concerns. These don't directly impact the fire design, but they do impact the rest of the building design from an overall approach of how they may have some relationship to the fire issues. For example, green roofs has been a big thing. It's been going on for a while. We have to recognize that the foliage up there is a fuel load. And if it's not properly maintained and they tend to dry out, now you're having situations where you're going to have a fire hazard, where you're going to get fire and smoke potential because of their fuel load, and that smoke and fire can spread to adjacent buildings. Roof evacuation, for example, in China, as Fang mentioned, they require helicopter evacuation on a building. Well, whether you actually will do it on a super tall building or not is really not the point, but the fact is that the fire and the smoke there will, if there is a fire up there on the roof, you're not going to be able to land a helicopter. Another issue is sprinkler water quality and testing. In order to conserve water, people are looking at using rain or gray water. Well, this can create all sorts of issues there. For example, in the steel pipe, particularly steel pipe sprinkler construction, where you get what they call mick buildup and corrosion. And this has to be watched carefully. Also, you want to make sure that you do your periodic water flow testing to make sure that the system is working properly, rather than try to skip it for water conservation. Another couple of concerns that we have are fire department access. Because when a lot of these buildings, green buildings done with beautiful glazing, beautiful green areas around them, limited access space there. So the fire department tends to get a little bit concerned when there are overhead clearances and canopies that are around the building for shading purposes, particularly in warm climates, because it prevents their ability to go ahead and to see and access and visibly determine what's happening in the building. It also creates many cases with glass debris coming down, where they're going to have their staging areas. And the sunlight reflections become an issue. I don't know if many of you are aware, but just recently in Las Vegas, in one of the new hotels that they built in this new city center, they found that at a certain time of the day, the light is reflecting off the curvature of the building, which acts as a lens, and is starting fires down by the pool area. So you just need to be very, very careful and look at the total picture and the surroundings there, particularly from the fire department's point of view there, because these are issues there that are generally not thought of, but it can sort of ruin a good relationship with them if they're not. Finally, areas of refuge. That is a very interesting area there. I'm actually going to defer any discussion on this to Dan O'Connor, who's going to be giving the third presentation today in more detail on this there. But it's a very controversial area. It's not generally done in the United States, but it is done here in Asia, and particularly in China and in Hong Kong and Macau with their codes. So it has pros and cons, and I think those need to be discussed thoroughly. This is another one of the high-rise buildings that typically get the challenges that we've talked about. And finally, in conclusion, higher and greener is definitely leading to new challenges in building design. But even though fire safety is not a key issue and does not give certification credits for what it does there, the whole point is good fire and life safety design can help the architects and designers achieve their goals while making the building, continue to make the building safe and going forward. And I think with that, the note is we've just run out of time. Thank you.